The views and opinions expressed by the hosts do not necessarily state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the views and opinions of the guests do not reflect those of the hosts, the show, the management, and the network. Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can see me, guys. Welcome back to my channel, Motivational Lee. Nice to see you all. And this channel, for those who are new here, this channel has been intended to create an inspiration to everyone, to inspire, motivate, and create an impact. And for those, again, for new to this channel, please don't forget to visit my YouTube channel, this one that you're watching for, or maybe on the FB page of Way to Oz. Please visit my channel and click the red button and click that word subscribe, and share this to everyone. Share the good news and continue to create an impact, empower other people as well. And speaking of that, inspiring everyone, one of the things that we can do, and I'm your direction career coach and your success coach, we would like to inspire to come to Australia. You try and settle here, thrive, and become successful one day. And today it's very important. I hope you will not miss this. And again, share this to all your friends, your loved ones who really need to understand about skills visa. And today we've got a very important topic, which is PR, permanent residency pathway, skilled visa, state nomination. This is our first stop for the 3 states, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. Updates for 2022. Let's now call on none other than the expert on all visas, especially let's talk about the skilled visa PR pathway. Let's call on Niti Hara from Way to Oz. Yay! I had some technical difficulties a while ago, so my machine is not working at this time, but that's fine. Life must go on, right, Niti? Especially when you are live as well. So Niti, thank you so much for dropping by.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee. Thank you for inviting me.
No worries. Anytime. There's always a good news, such an inspiration, and at the same time is a huge opportunity for everyone who wants to come to Australia. Such a beautiful, huge country, right? And very friendly people, and you can really settle here, thrive, and become successful. As your success coach here, Lee Montages, on motivation, I'm always here to support you guys. So please reach out to me through my Motivational Lee. So Niti, PR pathway, first stop, state nomination, skilled visa, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. Very exciting. So I would like to give you the floor to talk about this, Niti. Take it away. I'll be your assistant, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Lee. So today's topic, you have already summarized. So we're talking about PR pathway or skilled visas. Particularly, we are talking about subclass 190 and 491 visas, which is state-nominated visas. And today, because there's a lot to take in, so today we are only talking about 3 states, or the criteria for 3 states, which is Victoria, South Australia, and New South Wales. So we'll go through one by each state and talk about their criteria, their requirements, their preference, their processes. So I guess we should get started. So Lee, if you can, I've just tried to put everything on a slide for you guys so that we have a natural flow of the information and it's easy for you guys to digest. So Lee, if you can do the honors.
I'm so excited. Here we go. Thank you so much. And hello to Kiran Dhawan. Thank you so much for dropping by. And thank you as well for joining us in this live podcast, virtual podcast with Niti Hara from Way to Oz, Migration Education Services. Take it away, Niti.
Thank you. Thank you. So the first state we're talking about today is Victoria. Now, I'm not going to go through the number of allocations for this financial year because we already had sessions in past and we've already discussed about those. So this is only about the eligibility requirements. So just so that all of you understand, there is a bare minimum eligibility requirement that needs to be fulfilled for the at the federal level or for the skilled visas, such as you must have 65 points, you should have your skills assessment, you must be under 45 years of age. But in these presentations, I've tried to highlight some of the additional requirements on top of the DHA requirements that's required by the states. So Victoria, the good point is it is open for offshore and onshore applicants, right? Now, how the process works is you submit an expression of interest. So basically an expression of interest for a skilled visa at the DHA level. Now the state is saying, if you're interested in my state, you need to put another expression of interest. They call it as registration of interest because they don't want to get confused. So if you're interested and you meet the eligibility criteria for Victoria, you submit an ROI or registration of interest for Victorian state government. And after you are invited, you complete a nomination. Lee, can you go back on one slide? I think this is not the one we're talking about. So if you go back one, yeah, that's the one we're talking about. The process is second one, please. After you're invited, you complete a nomination application. You're usually given 14 days to complete the nomination application. Once your state nomination is approved, you apply. You've got 60 days to apply for the visa. Now, you know how I mentioned that you must have skills assessment, particularly for Victoria. You must be careful that when you submit your nomination application, your skills assessment must have at least 12 weeks of validity remaining. So if you have got, let's say you're invited today and you just have got 1 month of validity for skills assessment, Victoria may not fully invite you. So you need to be very careful. Now, the other key thing that you need to be careful is that Victoria is inviting only the people who are committed to live in Victoria, right? It's also open for all the occupations as long as you're working in skill level 1, 2, or 3. You may not be working in your nominated occupation, but if you're working at a skill level 1, 2, 3, then you can apply to the state of Victoria. Another most important thing that you need to be careful of is that they will not be accepting ROIs for interstate applicants. It's only and only for people who are residing in Victoria or maybe in offshore applicants, right? So talking about registration of interest, when Victoria is selecting these ROIs, they consider various things such as age, English level, your education and qualificational skill level, if you have a partner, what's their skill, and there's a new component this financial year, which is about the annual salary, and we'll talk more about it in the next slide. Lee, can you put next slide for me? Right. So for onshore, as I mentioned before, you must be committed to live in Victoria. So for onshore candidates, you have to provide your annual earning estimate. And there's a particular calculator which is on Live in Melbourne website that you can use to calculate the earnings. Now, you have to be very careful when you're putting your ROI that you do this calculation very carefully, because if you are getting any bonus or allowances, that cannot be included. You can include your penalties. So there's a certain criteria. So you should be very, very careful when you're putting your annual estimate. And any earnings that you're putting in, that must be from your employment from skill level 1, 2, or 3. And when State of Victoria nominates you, they verify your annual income by your employment contract, your last 4 weeks of pay slips, your superannuation account details. And these are the things when they ask for when you've got a pre-invite. So before giving a full invite so that you could apply for visa application, they are going to validate what you have said in your ROI. Now, most importantly, if you are applying for subclass 190, you could be living anywhere in Victoria. But if you're applying for 491, you must be living and working in regional Victoria. So that's the nutshell about Victoria. The good point is Victoria has got lots of allocation. It's sitting in at the highest at the moment in terms of the seat allocations for subclass 190. And it's open to all the occupations. So guys who are in Victoria, who are committed to Victoria, and even offshore candidates who think they are eligible, please do apply for Victoria State. Okay, any questions? Do we have any questions for Victorian State, or should we move on to New South Wales, Lee?
I think we can move on, and I can just let you know if there's any other questions. But at the moment, you have explained it very well. If there is, I'll let you know. Okay, I'll
Perfect.
just continue.
Let's move on to New South Wales. Next slide, please. Right. Again, New South Wales, it's open for offshore and onshore candidates. Minimum 65 points, under 45 years of age. These are DHA requirements, competent English, skills assessment. With the work experience, New South Wales is very particular that you must meet minimum skilled work experience and point score for your unit group. Now, what the New South Wales have done this financial year is they've actually released two lists, one for subclass 190 and another one for subclass 491. And they have mentioned the points, the bare minimum points that's required for that occupation and number of experience. So I've just given you a snapshot. By no means, this is not a complete list, but just to give you an example, if you are looking for cafe and restaurant manager, for example, for 190, you must have 85 points with minimum of 2 years of experience. Another example, let's pick up maybe accountants. They need to be sitting on 110 points with 3 years experience. Similarly, we've got a list for 491. Now, I have heard, and we are hearing this seems a bit harsh criteria because it's the standard they have set is very high. It's very difficult to be sitting on 100 points with that many years of experience. My only recommendation is there was lots of hoo-ha when the list was released and people are trying to move from one state to another. My recommendation is please stay there at this point. The reason for that is that New South Wales have always, in the start of the financial year, they've always come up or have set very high criteria. And as the year buys, because they've got one of the biggest allocation of all other states, they try to utilize all their allocations. And you may see that they might drop or change this listing in coming months. So I still see a hope over there. But some of the interesting occupations which have been winners are like early childhood teachers, for example, or social workers or hairdressers, where there's no experience required. And as long as you've got 65 points, you can apply. So there are some winners in the list, absolutely. So people who meet this criteria do apply for New South Wales. In terms of their New South Wales key steps, they do not have anything called ROI or registration of interest, which we have in Victoria. You just need to complete your EOI and make sure all your information is accurate, and select New South Wales as your preferred state. Once it's been selected, once you've submitted your EOI, New South Wales go through. If you meet the eligibility, they will send you an invite, and then you have to apply for the state nomination within 14 days. And you need to provide all the evidence for all the claims that you have made in your EOI. Now, I'll talk about a little bit more on 491 visa. So, Lee, can you move on to the next slide?
There's just a quick clarification here, Niti, from the anonymous. Okay.
I can't hear you, Lee. You there, Lee?
I thought I can hear myself. Anyway, sorry about that. Okay, this is just coming from the anonymous person with regards to New South Wales and Victoria. So in New South Wales, you submit the expression of interest, but with, however, Victoria, it's the ROI.
You do EOI and ROI.
So ROI is Victoria. Request Correct. Of interest. Is that request
registration? Registration of interest.
Registration of interest, but in New South Wales, it's expression of interest. And
only with interest.
Yeah, and in New South Wales, it completing the nomination in New South Wales should be within 14 days.
If you have been pre-invited, then you need to apply for the state nomination within 14 days.
14 days. But however, Victoria, it's within 60 days. Once you get the invite.
No. Once you get a pre-invite for both Victoria and New South Wales is 14 days. But after the state has fully invited you, whether it is New South Wales or Victoria, you are given 60 days to apply for the visa.
There you go. Thank you so much for clarifying that. I'm sure he's very happy right now. Thanks so much for dropping by. Okay, let's continue.
All right. So can you put on next slide for me?
Yeah.
Now, one of the key criteria, as I said, I haven't put all the basic eligibility here, but I've tried to highlight some of the key things. Now, for 190, you must be either residing in New South Wales or offshore for at least 6 months. So if you're interested in 190 and you meet the criteria which is against your occupation, then you must be living in New South Wales for at least 6 months. So you can't be just, let's say you're in Victoria or some other state and you've met the criteria, you've met the minimum point requirement, you've met the work experience requirements. You can't just go and apply for 190 for New South Wales. You must be residing there. Same goes for offshore candidates. They must be residing in offshore for at least 6 months, because the reason I am stressing on that requirement is because we've seen people who have come here on a student visa or any other visa, maybe for 2 months. They've been here in the country for 2 or 3 months and they want to apply on the basis of their offshore experience or under an offshore category, which they cannot because they must be residing overseas for at least 6 months. Now, if you are interested in 491, then you could be residing in New South Wales for at least, or offshore for at least 3 months. Now, 491 has got further 2 ways, Pathway 1 and Pathway 2. So there are 2 nomination pathways. Now, New South Wales have got RDAs, and there are, I've already listed the participating RDAs, which are the regional areas. You can either apply directly to RDA office, so each RDA would have their own list, and if you're eligible, you can just apply directly. Now, New South Wales haven't opened up the Pathway 1 as yet. It'll be coming up soon. Or there is Pathway 2, where you do exactly what we do with for 190, where you put an expression of interest, and if New South Wales feels that you meet the eligibility, and they are going to invite you. So that's Pathway 2 for New South Wales.
That's good to know, Niti.
So
very well said.
Today, which is New South Wales and Victoria.
That's good. Niti, there's just a quick question from Sashin Wadwa. Wadwa. Sorry if I butcher that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The question is, occupation code 222311, financial investment advisor with 85 points out of 491 offshore with more than 4 years of experience. What are the chances in SA, New South Wales, and Victoria?
Okay. So Victoria, I've said it is already open to all the occupations. In New South Wales, I have already mentioned that we've got a list here, financial investment advisor. If you meet those points, and how many years of experience? 4 years of experience. So let's have a look quickly whether you meet that eligibility or not. If you do and you're living offshore, then by all means you can. So let me do a quick one. So you are telling me investment advisor, which is 22. Okay, so they need 70 points with 3 years experience. Clearly, you meet that eligibility criteria for New South Wales. You must put your EOI. There are good chances. For South Australia, we're going to talk a little bit more detail before I can answer your questions, because there are 4 or 5 streams under South Australia. So let's go through that in detail.
Thank you so much, Niti, for clarifying that. I hope, Sashin, that helps. And if you need more information, please contact Way to Oz Migration and Education Services for some consultation at the same time. But that's a good start already. Thank you, Sashin, for dropping by as well. Niti, shall we continue?
Yeah, let's move on to South Australia now.
Okay.
Now, South Australia, again, it has got most of the occupations open for offshore and onshore candidates. Now, you must meet the criteria against the nominated occupation and stream you're eligible for, similar to what we said for New South Wales. However, so how you find out whether you're eligible for South Australia or not, you find or you search for your occupation list, and there are a few streams now. Now, there are 4 or 5 streams actually, which we will go through in a little bit more detail, and I'll highlight the key criteria that you need to be careful of. So when you expand on any of the nominated occupation, you will see the criteria against each of those streams. Now, these occupations, some of those occupations may be eligible only for 190, other might be eligible for both 190 and 491, depending upon which stream you are falling under. So let's go through the streams, which is the next page, Lee. Perfect, thank you. So South Australia has got 5 streams. The first one is South Australian graduates. Second is working in South Australia. Third is long-term residents. Fourth is highly skilled and talented. And fifth is for offshore candidates. Now, what does that mean? So let's expand on it one by one. Next slide, please, Lee. South Australian graduates. Now, who is a South Australian graduate? If you have studied or completed your qualification in South Australia, and it was registered for 46 weeks under CRICOS, and you've done at least minimum of 50% of your qualification, and you've resided in South Australia for 1 year during your studies, then you're a South Australian graduate. Now, another key thing that you need to be careful of is if you are applying under a South Australian graduate, then for the work experience requirement, you must be doing minimum of 40 hours per fortnight or 20 hours per week for 491 visa, or 30 hours per week and 60 hours per fortnight for 190 visa. So these are the 2 key things you need to be careful with. So usually what happens is 20 hours per week is considered for a work experience. So you have to be careful. If you're falling under South Australian graduate and you're targeting 190, you must have worked 30 hours per week. If you work 20 hours and you are a South Australian graduate, you cannot apply for 190. You may get nominated for 491 instead. So something you need to be careful of. Let's move on to the next one, and that's where you might feel people who have just worked 20 hours per week, you might feel fit into another category, which is working in South Australia category. Now, working in South Australia category means that you are working in a job that is related to your nominated occupation. Now, the good thing with South Australia is they consider closely related occupation is if the first 2 digits of your occupation ANSCO code match, which is quite flexible and relaxed requirement as opposed to the DHA requirement of closely related occupation, which is usually the match of 4 digits of ANSCO code. So you've been given little bit more flexibility here in terms of what kind of job you could be doing if you're falling under working in South Australia category. And you could be working only 20 hours per week, unless it's been specified for that particular occupation for subclass 190 or 491. So that's the key difference between working in South Australia versus South Australian graduate stream. Moving on, there's another stream which is called long-term residents. So who are long-term residents? Now, if you have resided in South Australia for past 5 years, you are a long-term resident. Now, another thing you don't need to be working in your nominated occupation. However, you must be working for at least 6 months, past 6 months from the date of your application at a skill level 1, 2, or 3, or skill level 4, which is care and aid occupation. Another key thing to be very careful of is that altogether you need 12 months of experience. Now that could be cumulative. So let's say you worked probably a year ago for a couple of months, and then you left the job. And then for the last 6 months, you've been working for that skill level 1 to 3. Then that's when 6 plus 3 months is 9. So you don't meet the eligibility. What I'm trying to say is you must have a cumulative 12 months of experience in that skill level 1, 2, or 3, or skill level 4 for care and an aid occupation. And during those 12 months for 491 visa, you must have worked 20 hours. For subclass 190, you must have 30 hours per week. And for 190, you must be working in a highly skilled position, which is a skill level 1, and receiving a high salary, which their threshold is 80,000 in Greater Adelaide or 65,000 in regional South Australia. Again, when you are applying under these streams, be very careful under what stream you fall under, and engage a registered migration agent to make sure you fulfill all the criteria. So just by living there does not make you long-term resident. There are other criteria such as the work experience, which we have just talked about. You need to meet those criteria. Okay. Moving on to the next stream for South Australia, highly skilled and talented. Now, the DHA requirement for a skilled visa is competent English. But if you want to apply under a highly skilled and talented stream of South Australia, you must have a proficient English. Also, you should be earning a high base salary of 80,000 per annum and by working 30 hours per week. So let's say you are highly proficient, you've got 8 each in your English, you've been working at a salary of 90K full-time, that's the stream to target for. Now, if you are working, if you're currently living in South Australia in addition to the above criteria which we have discussed, you also must have demonstrated extensive experience working in highly skilled jobs, senior or executive level jobs. You should have demonstrated that you've already started the employment or you already have an employment contract, and that employers must be an existing business for at least 12 months. So you can't be working for a new employer who's just set up or who has just started a business and they've offered you, someone who's offered you 90K. You can't. You're not falling under highly skilled and talented stream there. So that employer must be in business for at least 12 months and must have an annual turnover of 4 million. If you're an offshore applicant and you think you fall under highly skilled and talented stream, then you must have demonstrated extensive experience working in a senior executive level, same as for onshore applicants, in multinational or international recognized companies. Now, South Australia are going to prefer people who are working in one of their critical sectors. So I'll just put in some critical sectors, priority sectors for South Australia. Those are digital, green energy, hydrogen, defense, creative industries, advanced manufacturing. So if you're working, if your employer falls into one of those critical sector and you're earning above 80K and got good English, then that's the stream to look for. Okay, the last but not least is the offshore stream. Now, what do we mean by offshore? People who are living offshore, who are not in Australia, they can apply for if their nominated occupation is open. So you will notice that for South Australia, some of the occupations are open for offshore applicants, others are not. Some of them are open only for subclass 190 and 491, others are just open for 491. So it's a case-by-case basis. We have to before going forward, we have to identify what's your occupation and whether that's eligible for that particular stream. Now, how do South Australia assess those candidates? They look at the years of experience. They look at your English and they look at the EOI points. So that's how they are. And we have seen lots of offshore invites. I had recently one for a university lecturer, then I had another one for public relation professionals, and they're sitting on 70 points, not too high UR points, but they have got years of experience. And because of their age, the points have been reduced. But South Australia has still nominated them, which clearly states that they are looking for highly, highly skilled people. So that's about South Australia. We have covered all the 3 states today, and next time we'll be talking about or bringing other states such as WA, Tasmania, or Queensland and NT. We'll be talking about those 4 states next time.
That's really good to know, Niti. This is very interesting because the first stop for the SPEAR pathway, we talk about Victoria, New South Wales today, and of course, South Australia. Now, Niti, just to a little bit of some clarification on behalf of those who have messaged me on Messenger at the moment, because they thought that they could ask this now. First and foremost, just to clarify, the 491, subclass 491 and subclass 190 can be applied both onshore and offshore, right?
Yes, at the moment the states have opened up. Yes.
Yeah, cool. And all these occupational lists, on behalf of the person who's actually asking this, it can be checked on the website or immigration.gov.au.
It can be checked there. It is also, each state has published their criteria with the skill list on their website. Beautiful. So New South Wales have got their own, Victoria has got their own, South Australia have got their own.
Lovely. And also for the time frame of waiting, let's say they've done the expression of interest, they've already they've been invited already, and they've filled in the nomination form within the 14 days, and within the 60 days overall, they were able to submit the application. What is the time frame of waiting? What do you think? And what
after the visa has been lodged, you mean?
Yes, after the visa has been lodged.
Look, we have seen 491s coming in 7-8 months. But I also know there is a lot of waiting as well in the past. I've seen some of them have been waiting for a year or so. But with more in the October budget, the department has allocated specific budget for the DHA department. And we are expecting that after October, the processing times are going to be a lot better and improved. So let's hope for the best. So those 8 months, 10 months could be even 2 or 3 months. But I can't say at the moment because it hasn't started as yet.
Yeah. And at the beginning, thank you for that, Niti. At the beginning as well, obviously they have to undergo skills assessment, whatever their profession is, right? And what could be the time frame? Because someone is asking about this. Is there a shorter time frame when it comes to skills assessment? Is there a fast track? Or is it like just a standard?
Depends upon the occupation and the assessing authority. So some assessing authorities do provide fast track priority processing, others do not. So for example, if you're an IT graduate or IT, if you have an experience in ICT, ACS does not offer priority processing. Whereas if you are let's say a university lecturer or a cafe and restaurant manager, which is assessed by VETAssess, they do provide faster processing. Engineers Australia also provide faster processing. So it will depend upon the assessing authority.
That's really good to know. And guys, for any further, questions or clarification, you can actually contact Way to Oz Migration and Education Services, and they have it on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, Facebook page, and of course visit the website www.waytooz.com. And of course Niti is very well versed in all of these strategies, at the same time all the visas as well. And of course today is just very particular with skills visa, the state nomination for the 3 states, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. Niti, last 2 clarifications on behalf of someone anonymous. Okay. What if, hypothetically speaking, this particular future applicant is studying here or maybe working here and has been here for maybe 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, or studying for 2 years, because with international student, it must be 2 years, a maximum of studying, or if they want to study more, it's up to them. But is there a chance, for example, the list of this occupation has been updated and they found that their profession is in the list already? Is it possible whilst they're onshore studying, perhaps?
Absolutely.
They can do that, or working.
Student visa or the working visa, that's a temporary. when they're looking for the PR pathways to live, work in this country, obviously they have to apply through, and one of the most common pathway is a skilled visa. So absolutely, they can, while they're studying, they can work or target the skilled visa criteria.
That's really good to know. And keep in touch with us, guys. Way to Oz Migration and Education Services. And one last thing. Whilst, for example, they're offshore applying for or waiting for the application, not application, waiting for the visa being processed and the result and the outcome, are they allowed from offshore outside Australia? Are they allowed whilst waiting to come and visit Australia just for, to
They
see
can,
the
but that's a normal
what-
process like any other, like a visitor visa or something.
Okay,
They
so
can.
it's legal to come whilst
It's
waiting.
legal.
It doesn't
Absolutely.
affect the tourist
Absolutely.
visa. That's good to know. They're very happy right now. Yay, well done. Thank you so much for being so generous with that idea as well, Niti. And there's always, a chance for you to grow and thrive here in Australia, ladies and gentlemen. And if there's any other questions, there's a question here, Niti, but it's off topic. I don't know if you're okay with this. Is all about this is not part of the what you call this, the state nomination. But someone's just asking about how long does it take? I know this is regarding the age parent category visa. How long does it take to get the bridging visa once you lodge the application? This is off
It
topic.
is a paper
Okay.
application, usually take 3 to 4 weeks to get the acknowledgement and the bridging visa.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for answering that as well. Very generous, guys. Anytime, if you want to know anything about visa application, whatever it is, contact Way to Us, and Niti will always be there to have a session consultation with you. We do it on Zoom as well, or reach out to me on Motivationally. It's very important, guys, that you know what you're doing, and someone here who's an expert of about anything about visa, instead of talking to other people all the hearsay. Listen to the experts, just like Niti Hara here, who's actually registered and who runs Way to Oz Migration and Education Services. Once again, follow everything about the social media of Way to Oz just in front of your screen. And with that as well, before we wrap this up, Niti, I would like to thank you for your time. Honestly, you're always amazing, giving all the best information. And I'm sure everyone has taken a lot of golden nuggets at this time, especially our first stop, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia for our
South
state
Australia.
nomination. And guys, before we all go, Niti, I just like to wrap this up first about inviting everyone, apart from inviting you to follow Way to Oz Migration and Education Services. I would like to invite you guys to please visit my website, www.motivationally.com. And you can see and check out all my variety of services as I'm a life coach. I'm also a team building facilitator, professional host as well for any big or small events, corporate or non-corporate. And of course, personal development, and motivational speaker as well. If in case, please drop by on my website, www.motivationally.com. And of course, I also have my not website, what you call this, social media. Instagram, LinkedIn, what else? Of course, FB page, Motivationally. It's the same thing, Motivationally, and of course, YouTube channel. So thank you so much for those who have liked, share, and subscribe. Happiness is our business, right, Niti? And before we move on, I would like to make sure you remember this. Don't miss out any opportunity. Nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity. So keep going, guys, and reach out to me on Motivationally. Thank you so much for watching. Niti, thank you so much. Have a nice day, everyone. This is Lee
Yeah.
saying happiness is our business. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.